Thank you for joining today's AI Cafe. I'm the producer, Lance Hart. Today, we have a special guest with us, and we will be discussing what's next for the AI transformation in retail. This episode is brought to you in partnership with Burtch Works and CXO Expert Network. Without further ado, I'll hand it off to our Senior Director of AI and Analytics, Justin Grisham.
Thanks, Lance. I am excited to be here today with Wes Char, author of Data Independence. Wes, it is great to have you here today on this session of AI Cafe for Retail.
Thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
I'm excited for the conversation today. I have to tell you, I have had the pleasure of speaking with a lot of AI experts over the years. You were the first interplanetary AI expert that I've ever come across. So maybe you could start by giving the audience a little bit of background on yourself and some of your experience in AI. And I know you've had a long career, so anything you would be willing to share would be great.
Sure. Since you mentioned interplanetary, usually, very few people know about it, but I think you and I got the chance to talk about it. So yes, you studied computer engineering, computer science, but actually my PhD is in aerospace engineering. For a while, I was actually a person who writes guidance, navigation, and control algorithms for interplanetary navigation. In particular, way back when, in the late 90s, for the Mars Pathfinder mission in particular, when I worked for the Center for Space Research, we developed algorithms that can learn from other algorithms to create new algorithms on their own. And then they will adapt and etc. So the point of that example is that we've done AI in aerospace engineering to travel space more than 25 years ago. And the one thing I always tell that adaptation is possible in artificial systems. So that's the lesson. So now I switched from that to move really to the business world. I was always really more interested also in the business world. I've done the airline industry. I've done advertising, media, marketing. I've done CPG and retail, and even in the financial sector. The reason maybe I gave that adaptation is possible in artificial system, when you're doing adaptation and AI to figure out better navigation algorithm, it's not going to impact your daily life. It's doing space exploration. But now AI is part of our life today. And this is really why the conversation is important, because there are things that maybe people have not thought about and they need to keep on their mind, including what people sometimes allude to, oh, we're so afraid of AI, but what they're not really saying explicitly, I'm talking people who are in big tech that know the field, is that also adaptation is possible in artificial system, in systems that impact our daily life. And that's really one of the questions that's out there that everyone should be cognizant about in any industry, and what should you do about it, and how do you make AI serving humanity rather than humanity serving AI in some sense. That's one thing I've always said. So this is really the challenge today, but having conversation like with you, Justin, and others is a way to reach audiences, but also it's businesses and individuals to have that conversation. And then when people have those conversations, a movement starts to do the things that we should be doing as humanity.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's anchoring to have conversations like this where we're talking about what are the material impacts that AI is going to have on business, on humanity. It's a huge topic, and what we're going to be talking about, a rather huge topic today. Not everyone was as advanced as NASA 25 years ago with AI, but the topic is becoming emergent in all of the use cases that we're seeing across enterprises. And I think we're just getting started. So when we talk about how AI is going to impact industry, we're really just scratching the surface today. And I think the purpose of our discussion today is looking ahead and understanding where AI is heading for retail, and helping our audience understand how it might impact their business so that they can begin their planning and their AI transformation journey now. So, with that said, how do you see, looking a few years ahead, what are the biggest trends that are going to be impacting retail over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, would you say?
We've done personalization, obviously, for a while using machine learning. So personalization is not new. However, with generative AI coming on board, there is a new area of AI that's really going to impact personalization. We're moving into hyper-personalization. So what is hyper-personalization? Maybe I'll give you a couple of examples. Imagine, let's just say, you're walking into a store, a fashion store, and there is maybe a screen that immediately take your specifics, generates based on what you maybe communicated with a click of a button, all the things that you're interested in, a couple of things, and then generates fashion for you on the fly. So you will know perhaps what you may need to try, whatever. I mean, this is not far-fetched. I mean, we already know facial recognition. We already know a lot of things. They're all coming together. What if you have perhaps, if it's someone that's not anonymous walking to a store, but someone you have more data about, then you're taking a lot of other data, 360, that the retailer has, and they have a lot of first-party data, which is gold, I always call it, if not even better than gold, and integrated with that. So that's a unique experience. So that's one idea. The other thing, let's not think of fashion, but what about, let's just say, retailers that sell CPG products and other products, correct? That's something that we do daily, correct? Most people do daily. There is an opportunity now between generative AI and retailer to integrate other aspects. Let me explain what I mean by other aspects. You have perhaps some health goals. You have whatever you may have in your fridge. So IoT, correct? You have some health goals. You have some whatever. Imagine AI coming together to create the list that will let you attain your health goal by following whatever. This is not anymore a dietitian. This is now the retailer using AI, providing you the best thing at the optimum price, knowing perhaps what's your budget and what's your goal. This has become now a retailer. A retailer now is also integrated into healthcare, integrated into IoT, integrated into perhaps content that this consumer has generated to figure out everything for them. This is not far-fetched. This is things that are going. And I know I've been involved in various projects and conversations where things are moving in that direction.
Yeah, so in a way, marketing has largely always been about reaching the end user and having a moment with them in a way that they can relate to. And I think what you're suggesting is that AI is going to take us to a place where this is not done broadly, but it's done for the individual. It's going to be hyper-personalized. It's going to be targeted not just at the areas that a retailer, for example, would know about an individual and their preferences with their specific company, but also what that individual cares about. So going far beyond the data maybe you've collected about your purchase history and really tapping into the larger footprint of who is that person and what motivates them, what do they care about. Am I hearing you?
Yes, I will even, you're exactly spot on. Listening to you, I will say, imagine even a retailer providing an avatar, a butler service for every consumer in some sense, correct? That is out there. Not only do they recommend whatever, but can even execute for them on their behalf. So imagine a lot of things that we do, we may not be necessarily doing as much, whatever, because we have all this AI capability that does these, some people may consider it mundane or maybe time consuming, didn't want to do it. You could do it with AI. Yes, you are exactly right. And I can only see exciting things in the next year and the year after and for a couple of decades, if not longer, obviously.
So, and you keep saying this is not far-fetched. And I can say, at least from my seat, I don't think what you're describing really is far-fetched. You could envision having a personalized shopper even so that you're interacting with these brands or your individual shopper is interacting with these brands on your behalf. So organizations, retailers have captured information about you and your preferences, and this shopper is actually going to make a purchase on your behalf.
You know what I'm thinking, Justin? Just listening to you now, you're actually triggered something in my mind. Do you remember when the iPhone came? The iPhone came because, in my personal opinion, there was GPS technology that matured. There was internet, and it was there. And there was camera and video technology that matured. I mean, I can talk to you where it started, but I don't want to digress. And they were put together to create something incredible, correct? That is now part of our life. Retailers are at the cusp, in my opinion, for those who are innovative and want to embrace, where they can take these pieces to put really incredible solutions a la iPhone technology and how it impacted our daily life, but what type of technologies can impact retailers and consumers together. This is the way I think about it. Generative AI was one of the last pieces, more or less, that came along. We have the IoT, we have, loyalty programs, we have obviously internet, we have apps, But that generative AI piece and other pieces are all now coming together, and it's that innovative retailer that's going to put what really think can resonate with the consumer. This is actually, I think, the way I would describe it.
So it's almost like where data meets inspiration. If AI
Yes.
can be that inspiration, and your data sets can be part of what feeds that inspiration, they're all coming together in a way that can feed a hyper-personalized and performant profile or avatar for retailers' customers. Am I close?
Yes, correct. That is correct.
So, okay, so if I'm a retailer and I'm thinking about this, I'm saying, all right, Wes, I hear what you're saying. This actually sounds really exciting. What kind of steps should I be taking today? Because I know that there's a lot on the horizon, and it may be tough to see what's going to happen in 2035, but for the next few years, there are some very predictable stepping stones that organizations can be taking. So what advice would you be giving to retailers today to prepare for this future?
It may not be the most interesting thing or exciting things to do, but in my conversation and in my interaction with various companies, and because of what generative AI could do, which is not, let's just say, could create maybe some problems, and we can talk about that in a moment. The first thing that you need to do when you're integrating actually generative AI and other technology now, if you don't have actually a great governance and data policies, this is the time. And even if you had them, they have to be updated to reflect artificial intelligence. And I don't know of many companies that really have done that to integrate also generative AI. Some have done AI if you think of AI, machine learning as maybe one set of AI, if you think of some other mathematical whatever. But in particular, all companies that are serious about this space are now about working on basically developing data governance and data policies that takes into generative AI. And the reason is, and you hear that in the news, issues of bias, issues of data ownership, issues in output, issues of interpretation. And these could really backfire pretty quickly. I mean, I don't want to go to the example of one maybe retailer way back without mentioning the retailer who made the prediction about the particular consumer, etc., and that created issues at the time. You can certainly do much, much, much more with generative AI. And one client that I dealt with very recently is actually very astute and is thinking about that the right way. So they have their data scientists and they're ready to go, but at the same time, they're establishing all those processes, not only a document that says the whatever, but also all the processes so they can unleash what they're developing in the lab, in their sandbox now. The other thing is you need to scale, correct? You need to scale.
Yes.
So you better have a modern environment, of cloud and other things. And some folks, have not even finished that digital transformation, but this is accelerating a lot of digital transformation. So sometimes you go to someone, you want to do AI, and you find out, whoa, we have data issues first we have to fix, because if you don't have the data layer and the data architecture and whatever and the scalability address, you're not going to be able to do that. So this is the first thing that they need to do. But I will suggest for people to start, even if they have to start small, and they don't have to wait for all of this to be done, because you can work in a sandbox and in parallel as long as you're developing all these things in parallel. So you don't miss, correct, on the coming opportunities. That's the thing I would say.
I love that. And I heard a couple of things, so I'm going to try to unpack that, because I think you made some really great points. The first I heard was governance. I think it's very reasonable to get excited about the possibilities of AI. And I think if you listen to a lot of the conversation around AI today, there's certainly a lot of opportunities that people are identifying, a lot of forward thinking, a lot of visionary voices out there leading some of that conversation. But I think part of what I heard you say is that as the opportunity is going parabolic, so is the risk. And that's a really important part of this equation. And if you don't have your governance policies in place, you run the risk of taking things off the rails in a very dangerous way. Could not just harm perhaps your top and bottom line, but your brand. So it's very important to have strong governance in place in order to tackle this topic effectively. Am I hearing you?
That is correct. And when we say governance, also we will add scalable cloud platforms, data architectures, and I'm going to add one more: strong cybersecurity measures. And the reason I talk about that is because there's a different kind of, if you want to call it, challenges that generative AI poses. And I don't know if you heard of the term data poisoning.
Yes.
And that could be obviously a big issue of what you train and whatever. The way I think about it, I was trying to explain it to someone. It's like, you want to build a skyscraper, correct? If you don't have the foundation right, that skyscraper may look like the Tower of Pisa. So that's the idea. But you captured it correctly. I will only add to it the technology aspect on top of the governance aspect.
Yeah, I think that's great. So the second thing I heard you say is getting the modern data environment correct. I mean, this is a long-standing problem across industries. A lot of organizations struggle with getting your data environment set up correctly. There's a lot that goes into process engineering, system engineering, database architecture, data architecture. There's a lot that has to go right in order to create a really robust data environment. And I think, as we're seeing the use of data injected into increasingly sophisticated use cases, it's going to be especially important to make sure that data environment is stable, modern, and capable of handling the types of use cases that you really want to pursue. We've seen that at CBTS. Part of what our transformation journey has been standing up a brand new AI-ready modern data environment, and that's already making a huge difference in our speed and our ability to target use cases. And that's leading me to the third point that I think I heard is, if you do nothing else, just start. Get started on identifying which use cases can move the needle, whether that's a use case that's going to impact your top line, your bottom line, your customer experience. Get your toes in the water. It's important right now as an industry to move quickly, but move cautiously. I think that's kind of the balance of what I'm hearing you say. Am I reflecting?
You're reflecting that exactly. That's correct.
How should I, as an analytics leader or a business leader and a retailer, be thinking about AI use cases that could potentially help my organization?
Well, I was in a discussion recently, and you can think of AI as two things. What could I use AI to be transformative versus how can I use AI to be more effective with what I do today? There are really two things. Transformation means rethinking how you do the business in a fundamental way. You could go that route, and there's nothing wrong with it if you think the benefits, and there are things. But also, there are things that you're ready to do today with your own processes that you understand very well that can benefit very quickly from introducing AI to those processes. There is an AI transformative, I call it, versus I'm going to call it, I don't know, maybe AI innovative with current business practices. And of course, the transformation, if it can be so significant, whatever. But what I found also a lot of time with companies, not all companies are willing to get disrupted in a disruptive mode and change as fast as I would like in some cases. But a lot of them understand their current processes and how we can make them better. But once you do that, then they start thinking, how can I transform now that, the things that used to be, so maybe time consuming or maybe not as relevant, et cetera, are now addressed. Then they move to the transformation mode, the AI transformation mode. So this is, so going back, the use cases could first be taking a look at your current processes and how could these use cases become much better using generative AI, and you know them. But also, within the current workflows, you could be saying you've been thinking for a long time about things you wanted to do, correct? But you were not able. This is, then you start doing this assessment and having those discussions. What were those use cases? And then basically then start assessing what is the size of the prize, correct? Not
Sure.
Any idea is whatever. So you need to have also an approach to assessing the size of the prize and go to a POC or MVP, whatever, before you launch. So this is the way I would describe it, Justin.
I really love that. And I can say that resonates a lot with some of the work that we're doing at CBTS with our customers. Is we're helping them on their AI transformation journey. And one of the areas that we found is particularly useful is some people will be motivated by opportunity, but most will be motivated by solving for pain. So if you can identify pain points within your organization that are holding you back on a day-to-day basis, are potentially slowing down areas of your value chain and that would otherwise help you grow your top or bottom line. If you can identify use cases that are impacting your employee experience, you're going to start to garner buy-in from your organization, and it's going to help people start to think about AI in a different way. Because right now, I think there's a little bit of a cloud of fear around AI and what does this mean for my job, perhaps? What does this mean for the industry? There's certainly a lot of that. If you can help your organization transform into an AI-first organization by helping them see where AI can help them go parabolic in their own capabilities, that's a really effective way at prioritizing use cases. I don't know if you've had any experience where AI has dramatically impacted the pain that an organization is feeling either on a personnel or an overall basis, but does what I'm sharing, does that resonate with your experience at all?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. It resonates in two ways. The way I break them down, there is, if you want to call it front-facing, customer-facing, outside world-facing,
Yeah.
but there is also back office. And actually, the ones in the back office are obviously less risky, generally. Unless you're a regulated industry, then also there are some extra stuff, but I don't want to digress. But let's just say generally, they're less risky, but they present a lot of opportunities. One that I've been involved in and was rolled out to many, many, many companies is working actually, but the company has to be big in size. What I mean is that it has to have some complexity, correct, to benefit from AI. So let me give you this example. In the back office, you have HR function, you have finance function, you have procurement function, and you can name them. One that I've been involved in, and actually it's been really, really successful. I'm just so excited about it. And I go around and I still, recommend this company, to various other people, is actually I identified as a company that exists in the space of procurement AI. Imagine taking all the thousands and thousands of contracts that big retailers have, and you're introducing generative AI to have contract intelligence and spend intelligence. And these are things, why do you want to do that? I don't think people know. How do you, is this invoice really true? How do I map it to the contract? Do I whatever? So there is a lot of things that you can do on spend intelligence, but also contract intelligence. So you are smarter on how you design your negotiation. So imagine tens of thousands of contracts that are taken to simplify the whole procurement process. The benefits are incredible. I cannot share numbers, but I'm going to say they're very, very, very significant. The ROI was multiples and multiples. So that's one that I've been excited about. So these are the back office type things. Now, if you're regulated industry, like let's just say you're a financial firm, and I've been involved with one, we haven't implemented anything. The first thing we had to do was to do the AI piece, especially that it's a regulated industry, being in the financial sector and knowing that the regulation that's out there, correct, for someone on Wall Street in some sense. So they had to do that very, very, very thoroughly before they launch into, okay, now that we have this and we have the processes, so if we are ever audited, we're very transparent on how we've done it and etc. So they can start doing the AI stuff. Now let's switch to the front facing. Let's just say we're dealing with a customer. It depends on what you want to do. If it's a call center, it's less risky, correct? Because there's summarization of perhaps conversation they're having with a chatbot before perhaps a human comes. But let's just say if it is something that's going to make a recommendation, a hyper-personalization, it better be trained on the right data, unbiased data, et cetera, so you don't end up in situations that could be impact, obviously, the relationship and the brand and the consumer. So this is how we divide it. Front-facing, the world and the consumer and where you sell, where you do business, versus internally or the back office and what you could do. And you should not, not do both. There are opportunities on both. It just depends on where you think are the least risk. One thing I like to do is you have to, you may have an assessment of the size of the price, but at the end of the day, there are really two components for risk, correct? Impact and complexity. Mm-hmm. So understanding really, and I mean impact bad impact, and the complexity of integration. If you can figure these two out and you want to be basically with the low risk, with the highest impact, and identify those. I actually use this matrix and I map it for clients. So they say, okay, look at the use cases. Let's focus on these. these are low risk, but high impact, or maybe low risk, maybe you only had medium impact. So you focus on those and you start building this if you want to call it, experience in implementing AI before you go to other cases.
So you're getting the snowball rolling. You're really starting to
Yes.
build that internal momentum and
Yeah.
helping people come along on that journey. So, and in a way, inspiring the organization to be thinking more in these terms, because it's different. This is going to change how people think about doing work. It's going to change how we think about growing our footprints. It's going to change how we think about engaging with the customer. And what I'm hearing is really exciting, because it's not just the storefront. It's what's happening behind the scenes. It'll help. AI is going to help individuals increasingly do more and scale what maybe took a department before to do can be done by a small team. You're looking at growing the full capabilities and breadth of an organization with this next epoch.
That's correct. And do you mind if I add? I don't know. Maybe I'm going back to a tangent, so I apologize, Justin.
No.
And the companies that will also succeed is the companies that I presented that concept in the book that I've written recently, is the companies that follow what I call the TAPER principle, TAPER, transparency, accountability, protection, equality, respect. If I'm a consumer and I know that this brand or this retailer is known for TAPER, I want to do more business with them. I feel more whatever. I want to maybe share more of my data. And those who follow TAPER, have that process, and gain the trust, correct, of the individual, are going to have the first party data in ways they haven't even imagined. And they're going to really be able to drive things no other retailers have driven. So it goes back, but with basic things and fundamentals, be transparent, be accountable, be protective, be equal in how you treat everyone, and be respectful. And people will be drawn to that, correct? And then those who are drawn and whatever are going to basically succeed more than others. And there are a lot of, and then imagine a retailer that has been so successful in that, with all the laws changing, whatever is happening in the industry, gathering that data, which is really the fuel, the most important thing. And what could it do? I mean, I have plenty of ideas. What could they do then with data that they have, whatever, in particular positions, beside AI, about taking the data to make it even something else for both the retailer and the individual, beneficial for both of them.
Yeah, so I'm going to extrapolate a little bit here, but I think you're hitting on a really important point, and it's where I think in many ways this is all heading in a few years. So organizations' data will become their competitive advantage. It's never been more important to have a solid data strategy that can be leveraged atop a modern data infrastructure that can be plugged into these AI use cases. Is that a fair way to sort of summarize it?
It's a great way to summarize it. It is, Justin. It is exactly that. Yeah. Because imagine you have this data. I mean, you can do a lot of it in AI, but there are a lot of things that I haven't seen retailers do. And I don't know. I tried to pitch it one time, but there was a lot of transformation at one company I was dealing with. They were not ready for it. But imagine, the companies that have this data. I mean, that really can become a currency. And I don't think many retailers have really thought what would really that mean in terms of currency, whatever. But I don't want to digress on that. Let's focus on AI. But those that have that what you just described in the way you described it, have even other opportunities beyond AI.
Well, at the risk of going a little bit far out here on the curve, I actually think this is a very important topic. Data monetization has been around for a while.
Yes.
There's a number of organizations who are really forward thinking in how they do data monetization. I don't think I'm predicting too much here, but I think that data monetization is going to become an increasingly important topic, especially as we get into agentic AI. So
yes.
as we start to have agents come online and fulfill some of the use cases like we just talked
yes.
about, personalized shoppers, for instance, they're going to want to buy data. And so building out a modern data environment and having that infrastructure in place isn't just smart from a let's leverage our own capabilities. It's smart from a data monetization perspective, because like we just said, data will be your competitive advantage. And in getting started now is going to determine how much of a competitive advantage you have.
Yeah, I agree with you. And with the agentic AI, yes.
All right. So Wes, we've covered a lot today in a pretty short period of time. I want to try to make sure that I've captured everything that we discussed as some of the most strategic takeaways for our conversation. So if you're a retailer, you really should be thinking about where these use cases are heading over the course of the next few years. Hyper-personalization start to emerge across all of retail, and being prepared for that hyper-personalization is critical. You can do so by setting up a proper governance policy as well as a modern data environment. You need to start now, which I think you alluded to earlier, and absolutely on point. And if you're really forward thinking, you're thinking about how to not just unlock the data potential for your organization, but also building a monetization strategy that will help you turn your data into revenue for the future as agents come online and begin purchasing data from retailers about what they know about customers. Is there anything important here that I missed from our conversation today, or anything you'd like to add to that?
I like to be very active, anticipating rather than be reactive, correct, to what's happening around me. And I think in my mind, I always told folks, the best way to predict the future is actually to create the future. You know what I mean by that?
Absolutely. I say to my team, the future belongs to those who build it.
That's exactly right. Those who don't do that today with what's coming with AI and who are not embracing it, it's not just a tool in my mind. Think of it, you have this capability as a partner for transformation and innovation, and I want to create my future and the future of my industry because I'm leading. That's the one thing that I'll leave folks with. You know, I don't remember where I heard this, start no matter what, even if you have to start small, but start no matter what. These are really the two things that I would like maybe to highlight at the end. Be in control of your future, build your future, like you said. Don't be reactive, and embrace AI not as a tool, but as a partner for innovation and transformation.
I love it. I don't think I could put it better. Wes, thank you. This has been a great conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I am looking forward to reading more of your book. I've already started, and it's a great read. So thank you again for your time today, and thank you for joining us on this session of AI Cafe. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much for the invite. Feel free always to reach out, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys and to your audience. Thank you very much.